Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our channels and networks. I'm Mike Morales here in sweltering Southern California. That gentleman out there is
Eric Zandona in Florida's Emerald Coast.
He always sounds like he's air conditioned. I don't know why.
Not in this office.
Yeah, not in that office.
It's not powerful enough for the office.
Not in this one either. Yeah, I think Eric and I are going to go into like a 2-for-1 deal where we're going to get like ring lights in our, because I got a halogen over here that's creating heat.
Yeah.
Anyway, apart from that, because we have no budget, but the cool part is Eric and I are going to taste and dissect Honor del Castillo. This is the Reposado expression, which each of these expressions have kind of a nickname. This was called Afilado, which is sharpened. That's the literal translation as we go through this, explain what it all means. But if you're not familiar with Honor del Castillo, it is a celebrity owned brand, and this is by Kate del Castillo, and I'm a big fan. And a lot of Latinos, those of you who have Netflix and watch a lot of that, watching English and Spanish, you've seen her movies, you've seen her telenovelas on Netflix or even on Univision, Televisa, whatever channel she happens to be on. She is La Reina del Sur, so she likes to play those characters, and she got in trouble for playing characters, but we liked her. We're good so far. We fell in love with the Blanco. Yeah. And we're going to try the Reposado. There's a reason. I asked Eric off camera, I said, should we go with the Cristalino, which there is a Cristalino, or should we go with the Repo first? And he goes, let's go with the Repo first and see if there's a difference. Yeah. So here we are. We're going to taste it, dissect it. I'm going to use my Stasel Jarrito that I normally use for mezcal. I like using it for Repos because nice lingering bubbles. Just because the wood kind of adds an extra layer that I can get through and get under. Ordinarily, these jarritos, we use them for either higher proof tequilas or mezcals. Yeah. And Eric's the Glencairn guy, which is cool with me. We love.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I use for everything, so it just helps keep everything the same.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who don't know, it's manufactured by the same company. Stasel makes the jarrito, and they also make Glencairn to their specifications. So, yeah. And as we go through this, we'll explain. This is coming out of NOM 1414, which is Feliciano Vivanco y Asociados, a favorite of ours. And I had high hopes for the Blanco, and it met everything. Actually,
so this is something interesting I didn't catch. So the Blanco was 40%, so 80 proof. The Repo is 41.5. It's the only one that's different. That's
no kidding. I didn't know that. I hadn't even looked at the labels. They've been sitting on a living room floor for just a few days. Yeah,
because at first whip, I was like, there's a bit more alcohol in this.
Well, yeah, I was. Well, right now,
I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It's opening up for me now, and it's brighter. It's got that bright citrus nose, and then all of a sudden I got some alcohol whiff. Which is okay. We look for the alcohol because the alcohol presents the elements the way it should if it's done right. Yeah. Wow, this is deep. I'm getting are you getting like anise or licorice or something at the bottom?
Yeah, there's something like that. To me, it's like black licorice candy. So it's not as intense as like anise seeds or star anise.
How about fennel?
It's definitely there.
Would you say fennel maybe as opposed to anise, or just anise?
No, it's definitely that aroma, but it's muted. It's not as intense.
Okay.
So that's all I mean.
Which is weird because we didn't get that in the Blanco. Normally I'll get it in the Blanco.
No. There's definitely some wood character, but there's not a ton of vanilla. We don't know. They didn't give us any real materials. So my assumption would be that they're using like used American oak barrels. By
the way, I know we've been neglecting it, but beautiful legs and tears. The Blanco had lovely legs and tears. the Repo does probably, aided by whatever the barrel's imparting. And it's a very pale straw color. It's not very,
Yeah.
What's interesting is that if the Blanco's at 80 proof, but this was higher, is this from another batch, perhaps?
Well, most likely what happens, right, is that the Blanco comes off the still probably in the 50s or higher.
Okay. So
and they just, and then they just bring it down, right? Because like there are a number of brands now that are coming out with like still strength or fuerte or whatever, higher ABVs for their Blancos or further even some of their aged stuff. So what that means is like it's coming off the still at a higher proof, but generally they're bottling at 40, which means they're bringing
it down
or adding water to bring it down. So for whatever reason, it went into the barrel, and when it came out, they decided to bring it only down to 41.5 rather than all the way to 40.
There's
definitely some like there's a little bit of like it's almost like sandalwood. There's this wood spice. It's kind of interesting there. And my guess is
it smells like an aftershave or something, right?
yeah, but given the light color, my guess is like the barrel's maybe used a couple of times. Again, we don't know how long it's been. It might be at the very minimum of 3 months.
I don't know. While you're describing it, let me see if there's any information on the label, because the labels here are bilingual. They're in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
And so my Spanish is a lot quicker. They are using champagne yeast. They grow their own agave. We know that. Let's see. This one is Afilado, personalidad apasionada, porque vives cada experiencia al borde y con las emociones al máximo. So you're a passionate, emotional person. Buscas hacer el hoy inolvidable con tus amigos de siempre y con los que todavía tienes por conocer. So you drink it with your friends, and for those you're gonna meet. Es el lado de la vida con color que nos muestra de vez en cuando su cara más oscura y aventurera. Okay, that's a tough word for me. When I don't have a chance to practice it, it comes off really bad. I unless it says so in the sofisticada la esencia del agave, nuestro constante trabajo. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, they don't say anything on their website either about how long it's aged or anything.
So we don't know how long. We're going to estimate 3 months in distressed barrel.
Yeah, probably. That's my guess. So, but anyway, I'm interested to taste it.
Let's go in. It definitely behaves like a higher proof tequila.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. The flavor wise, like there's a dry cocoa kind of character at the finish. It's not very sweet. It's not very sweet.
It's like a bitter chocolate at the end, right? Like a bitter cocoa. Yeah.
It's not really vanilla caramel. So given that like almost herbal like aroma that it has, I wonder it could maybe be in French oak barrels.
But doesn't French oak it could be. First of all, I know that
I don't know what they're using, but anyway, just the flavors I'm getting, the aromas, the texture of the tannins, it kind of reminds me of more French oak than American, but who knows?
I'll go there. I was going to say bourbon. I was going to say bourbon barrels because it It does carry a little bit of a heat, and I'm not sure if that's from the tannins in the barrel or the higher proof as well.
Yeah, I think I would say it's probably from the alcohol. Just a slightly higher ABV. To be honest, like I'm a little bit not as excited about this as I was the Blanco. I think it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. I'd say it's definitely more in that, like, I would say like for people who like me who are looking more for like the green or fruity or cooked, like baked agave flavors come through the aged expressions, those people might be a little less excited about this. But for others who, if you like cocoa, right, it's definitely got a nice flavor profile to it. But
I'll have to gently disagree.
Okay.
I like it. And I'll tell you why. Before Ka, before all that rigmarole where Ka, was sued by Dan Aykroyd and the whole thing with the court and that whole mess, Ka was famous for one of their expressions. They had a reposado that came in at barrel strength.
Mm-hmm.
It was 100 proof reposado, and people died all over it. And I had it one time when I lived previously, like 8-9 years ago. I was at a show in Pomona, which isn't far from here.
Yeah.
And I finally got I known previous owner Kim Brandy a long time, and I'd met her previously when I was a judge at Spirits of Mexico, and she had her own brand, but I'd never had a chance to taste that reposado. So she was at the show. I went up to her. I said, I know what the rest of the line tastes like. Let me have the repo. And it was outstanding. And it's rare that you see a reposado at a higher proof where the rest of the core line comes in at 80.
Right.
And so I enjoy this, but I'm not exactly sure where the method of the distiller, the master distiller, the family member who's in charge of this flavor profile, Jose Manuel, who I met. I met him, and is the one that I'm familiar with. I don't know what the method of his madness is, because why did he come in at just under 42? You know what I mean? And on the reposado, I will say it's unusual enough for repos out there, because there aren't that, I can't find a high proof repo anymore. Once Ka lost that whole court thing, and it was picked up by Amber Beverage, and it was made into it's moved and made someplace else, and all that. It's more mainstream. It's okay. It's a good tequila, but I like it. There's something. There's an undertone under the sides of the tongue, like an underlying funkiness. Am I wrong with that? There's a like, maybe he's using don't distillers use like the heads or the heads or tails in the second distillation to give it a little bit more of a character and proof?
Yeah, so it's not uncommon that distillers will put the tails back into the first distillation, so and then redistill. Basically, it's a way of preserving more alcohol through the next run. Yeah, so there's something there. I think so. Here's my what I would say. I like analytically, it's definitely showing that, like, again, they're not adding anything to this, right? So the profiles that you're getting out of this, to me, is a pure expression of what happens when you take a Blanco that has these like great flavors, and then you stick it in a barrel and let them oxidize for some amount of time. So
yeah, and to your point about the barrel that they're using, I know that they that there is a line of Siembra Azul that uses French oak, and so it would be fair to say that they have used French oak barrels, maybe. And like you say, it's interesting because the more of the French oak tequilas that I have, they're Asian French oak, the more distressed the barrels become, the less of the chocolate the chocolate, the sweetness, and the vanilla turns into like cocoa and drier and coffee and sometimes even leather. You know, this is bitter on the rear of the tongue. Same long finish. There's definitely more alcohol. It's an aggressive reposado, I'll have to say.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in like the Blanco did.
Yeah. And so in that regard, like I respect it because it's definitely it's being its own unique animal for repos, right? They're not just copying what's in vogue in any way, right? This is a true expression of the distiller, the blender, and the brand itself. Like they chose all this on purpose. And so for that, like I think it shows a clear, like unique vision for what they want. And so that, to me, that's a good sign that like it's more than just what people might call a celebrity brand, right? Because there's a lot of thought that's definitely showing up in this.
I think so too. It may not be Eric's favorite. I like it, you know, so I think between the two of us, we can agree it's a Brand of Promise nominee for sure. But it is different. You know, if you're looking for a natural progression in the line, you probably, like Eric said, to his point, you might not, you know, enjoy it as much as you did Blanco, you know. But for me, having had a higher proof Reposado and knowing that it's so rare on the market right now, there you can't. I don't know why nobody's tried to make it like that. Because you guys know, you guys are collectors, and you've had that old cod that came in the ceramic skull head, not in the newfangled bottles, but that high proof Reposado. Once you've had it, you'll never forget it. I have 4 minis that are still full. I haven't broken any seal. One of them is a high proof. So, you know, I don't even know if I'll ever break it open, but and the fact that it's all natural, you know, there's the stuff that you can accomplish without throwing caramel spring and staves and stuff like that. You know, this is
one of the beauties of like oxidation, right? You put spirits in to barrels, not just to extract flavors from the barrels, but to allow the spirit to breathe and to oxidize and allow the flavors to transform. And that's, I think, what's the really interesting thing about this is that they didn't just extract flavor from the barrels, that they used the barrels as a tool to transform the Blanco into something else. So I think that's interesting.
Brilliant. I can't say anything else. What's our price point? Do we have a price point on this one at all?
Yeah, so it's kind of all over the place with prices depending on what state you're in. So I've seen as low as 38 and as high as 60. So it's going to vary where things are at. I think partly the price variance might be because it's not as widely available on the market yet. So that might be accounting for some of the price differences. But I think definitely solid for the price. Like,
oh yeah,
outrageous by any means.
Yeah, if you're spending that kind of money on stuff that's got additives in it, you can, you know, if you shop online, you could probably get it for less and much better quality tequila.
Yeah,
you know, especially if you're a repo hound, because reposados are. I remember a gentleman that wrote an article for us years and years ago, and oh, there we go. We almost had our lights out. He said reposados are really the toughest expression to do correctly because you can really mess it up. And so I think that's the reason why a lot of them stay at 80 proof, because they don't tend to experiment. And somebody who says, you know what? Oh gosh, somebody says, we're having monsoon season right now, which is rare in California. So my lights go fade in and out. So having a reposado at high proof, unusual. I like it. I think it's a Brand of Promise nominee. That's our take on Honor del Castillo Reposado. If you guys are having it and you've had it before, please leave us a comment down below. Tell us what you're paying for it, where you're buying it, what you're doing with it. I think as a cocktail, it'll stand out beautifully. And if you like it, great. Where are you buying it? Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a like. That does help with the algorithm. Follow us on Instagram, Tequila Aficionado. You can follow Eric at Easy Drinking. That's your handle on Instagram.
Yep.
And whatever you do, folks, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.